This is Nicky G and welcome to Better Commander. Well, we made it to 1,500 subscribers. Let's go back to 2019 with Sir Gwyn, hero of Ashvale. Alright, let's delve deep into the spirit of Commander and talk in excruciating detail about Magic the Gathering cards. But first, equip the sword of like and subscribe and smash them both for 1,000 damage, and maybe win with Commander damage like the ancient lords of the battlefield intended. Leave me a beefy comment for the algorithm. Sir Gwyn, hero of Ashvale, 3 red, white, and a black for a legendary creature. It's a human knight, 5/5 with vigilance and menace. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Equipment you control have equipped knight 0. I mean, she's wielding a flaming sword, she's riding a black horse, she looks like a Voltron commander, but she also had this sweet knight sub-theme. So what made me gravitate towards Sir Gwyn build this commander deck so long ago? Sir Gwyn costs 6 mana, so I think it's fairly costed for what she can do. She wants to be equipped and swing in with vigilance and menace, but she also benefits from having multiple creatures equipped and attacking. Drawing 1 extra card a turn is great, but 2 or 3 is also feasible if we can get a few creatures equipped. Cheating equip cost is also a prime ability on a Voltron commander. It means Gwyn can come down and just magnetize all the equipment onto herself and bang in immediately as a big beefy monster, as long as we include some equipment that give haste. One of the big problems for a Voltron deck is the classic trade-off for having an alternate win condition like that. It's that the commander gets more and more expensive the more and more it's removed. There are a few ways around that. The first is protection spells and protection equipment, cards that give indestructible or hexproof. We don't want Shroud because equipping is a targeted ability, so Shroud turns off all of our equipment. Alright, let's first talk about one of the coolest equipments in Boros colors, and one that's been reprinted a bunch and is now about 20 cents. Sunforger's 3 generic mana for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +4/+0, has red and a white unattached Sunforger. Search your library for a red or white instant card with mana value 4 or less, and cast that card without paying its mana cost, then shuffle. It has equipped 3. In the olden days of Commander, we would include what we call the Sunforger Package. These days, Sunforger has become a little inefficient, and in the faster gameplay of modern Commander, it's tough to rationalize a Sunforger Package. But with Sir Gwyn, our initial investment is reduced by 3 generic mana, and we can re-equip it for free. So we can tutor up a removal spell like Anguished Unmaking and Generous Gift, or a nice protection spell like Boros Charm, to give Sir Gwyn indestructible or double strike for a finishing blow. I do run a fair amount of creatures in this deck. I don't want Sir Gwyn to be our only threat. Commander damage is great and can be a great way to pick off one last opponent. I think some of these creatures as enablers and some as alternate commanders. The deck is built around Sir Gwyn, but we should run just fine without her. So just a quick note about some Kamigawa Neon Dynasty equipment creatures I included. Sir Gwyn grants these creatures the ability Equip Knight 0 with her 3rd ability. They retain their reconfigure cost, and from the rulings on Lizard Blades, an equipment creature with reconfigure can be attached to creatures by effects other than its reconfigure ability, such as the activated ability of Brass Squire. Attaching an equipment with a reconfigure to a creature causes that equipment to stop being a creature until it becomes unattached. It also loses any creature subtypes that it has. The cool thing about these cards is that they can serve as targets for equipment, or they can function as equipment themselves. Cloudsteel Kieran is 2 and a white for an artifact creature equipment Kieran. It's a 3/2 with flying. Equipped creature has flying and you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. It is reconfigured for 5. Cloudsteel Kieran is probably the worst of these that I included, but if Gwyn is on the battlefield, the Kieran has free equip cost and stymies combo decks until it's removed. Now Lizard Blades, this is one of the coolest cards to come out of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and nobody else thinks so, but I like it. It's one of my favorite cards, so I'm sticking it in this deck. Lion's Sash is another one of those cards that's a bit hard to parse, but it's basically a scavenging ooze that can be equipped and provide some grave hate and can buff our commander. Alright, let's get to our enablers and our support creatures. SRAM, Senior Edificer. This guy's an excellent support creature that enables our strats by drawing us into cards. That's what we want to do, dude. And we got Daneth the Capuchin Paragon. She's out there looking cute in the latest stained glass fashions. Plus she's a steal at 3 mana with all those keywords, and it reduces costs on all 24 of our equipments. Also just want to give a quick little shout out to Stormfist Crusader. Yeah buddy, drawing cards. Fist to the sky yelling about the curled up foils and freshly opened packs. Stonehewer Giant is 3 white for a creature. It's a giant warrior, 4/4 with vigilance. Has 1 and a white and tap. Search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control, then shuffle. No matter how strong, an unarmed fighter is no more than a fool. This is good advice. Get some weapons, it's war. Don't run around shaking your finger at people. Get some dang axes and stuff. This guy's expensive, but it's an equipment tutor right onto the battlefield onto a creature. Great card in this deck. Pure Steel Paladin. This guy has the best hat in all of MTG. On my deathbed, I'll tell the story of how I got a pure steel paladin for $2 after it was reprinted in Double Masters, and I told all my friends about it and none of them bought one. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Equipment you control have equip 0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts, which we hopefully will because all of our ramp is artifacts and a bunch of our creatures are artifacts. Very synergistic card for Sir Gwyn. You know what else is an artifact? Esper Sentinel. I'm not sure how many of these I have because they go immediately into decks. I opened 2 boxes of Modern Horizons 2 and I regret nothing. We got the old Stoneforge Mystic, needing to get a tan out there, spending too much time in the forge, wanting a wipe for a creature core artificer. It's a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Also, as 1 and tap, you may put an equipment card from your hand onto the battlefield. This does a lot of work in equipment decks. Cheapest one is about $35, unfortunately. Now this isn't a creature, but I'll stick it in the enabler section because it's my dang video, I'll do what I want. Sigarda's Aid is 1 white mana for an enchantment. You may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash. Whenever equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. Look at this beautiful art. This guy is like, help, I need food and medicine for my family. Sigarda says, I got you, fam. Take this little tiny hammer. And we have 2 little knights that make Sir Gwyn better. Bloodstone Sword and Silverblade Paladin. I think I said Bloodstorm. Look at these knights in shining armor giving +2 and haste and giving double strike. They look so cool. They look so happy on their horses. Alright, this is where our substitute commanders come in. We have Balin, Wandering Knight, 2 white for a legendary creature. It's a cat knight, 3/3 with first strike. Balin Wandering Knight has double strike as long as 2 or more equipment are attached to it. Has 1 and a white. Attach all equipment you control to Balin. This thing is fantastic in a deck like this. This guy has been training for years to get his head perfectly spherical, and it worked. Fervent Champion, dude, this guy comes down early and he can cheat equip costs for himself. So he's banging in, and one of our opponents gets trigger happy and wastes a removal spell on him. Less hate for Sir Gwyn. And we got Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, 4 red and a white for a legendary creature, Angel, 5/5 with flying and first strike. If a source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, that source deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. If a source would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent half that damage rounded up. Slapping demons around with 2 swords. Sign me up, baby. And we got the old Godo, Bandit Warlord, 5 and a red for a legendary creature, Human Barbarian. It's a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Whenever it attacks for the first time each turn, untap it and all samurai you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Godo's a pretty good substitute commander, but he's an excellent equipment tutor. We also have Open the Armor and Steel Shaper's Gift. All of our ramp is artifacts. We got the signets, we got the talismans, we got the soul rings, we got the arcane signets, all the usual suspects, but I did want to mention Thran Dynamo. The cool thing about this is 22 of our artifacts are 3 mana value or less, so you can pop this out and cast one of them. I don't know why, but that feels really good to me. Alright, on to the good stuff, equipment. Let's talk about our ramp. We have Dowsing Dagger, which is 2 generic mana for an artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 2/0/2 green plant creature tokens with Defender. Equipped creature gets +2/+1. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may transform and it has equip 2. It transforms into Lost Vale, which is a land you can tap, add 3 mana of any one color. Well, we found that well, and it's got mana in it. Oh, Sword of the Animus, why are you so expensive? I wish I could just have a million of these, but I don't have them. I also have Sword of Hearth and Home in this deck. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, protection from green and from white. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target creature you own. Then search your library for a basic land card. Put both cards onto the battlefield under your control, then shuffle. This Modern Horizons gem gets us land, doubles up on our ETB effects, and if there's no ETB to be had, then whatever. It's a May ability, or we could just untap an attacker. And we gotta have haste on Sir Gwyn, right? Well, we got Fleet Feather Sandals, Swiftfoot Boots. Accessorize your outfit with some boots. Ooh la la. Sword of Vengeance and Chariot of Victory give Gwyn some really sweet keywords and also give her haste. And then we have Cauldron Complete, 7 generic mana for a legendary artifact equipment. Has Living Weapon and Indestructible. Equipped creature gets +5 and has First Strike, Trample, Indestructible, Haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. Has an equip cost of 7. This thing is just fantastic in this deck. Functions as a haste granter, an equipped creature for more draw because it's got Living Weapon. It's a pump equipment and a protection equipment. Speaking of protection, Dark Steel Plate exists, so slap it on in there. Hammer of Nazan is 4 generic mana. When it or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible, it has equip 4. This is a fantastic card to get out early or tutor up. All my tutors I always get Hammer of Nazan. All our other equipment has that sweet auto equip ability as a result of this being on the battlefield. I love it. And lastly here we have our pump equipment, just general good stuff. Colossus Hammer is a masterpiece in this deck. If we can cheat that equip cost, there are plenty of equipment that can give Gwyn Lord of Cinder trample, and he's just going to be a monster. Bloodforged Battle Axe is a self-replicating equipment, so we can get more draw with Sir Gwyn with the copies that we equip to our other inconsequential creatures. Blackblade Reforged is great. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. We have a few ways to get extra lands onto the battlefield as well. Loxodon Warhammer and Tenza Godo's Maul are cool little mid-cost pump effects with added keywords. Let's read the old Embercleave real quick. 4 red for a legendary artifact equipment with flash. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike, and trample has equip 3. This is everything we want to be doing in this deck. And to complete our fashion ensemble here, we have a grafted exoskeleton. Sir Gwyn gets down and dirty, gets that Phyrexian swag, and infects out our opponents. Alright, I know what you're saying. Nikki G, you do a lot of budget decks. Why do you have a deck that costs $500? Well, they started out as budget decks or they started out as precons, but over time they get better and better as you upgrade and get more cards. That's the whole point of this hobby. Don't be mad about it. But anyway, this deck hums. It's dangerous, flexible, it's adaptable. Plus, it's fun to pilot, and that's the real deal. Hey, listen, thanks for subscribing. It makes me happy to talk about cards that we all love. We all love this game. Here's to the road to 1 billion subscribers. This is Nikki G from Better Commander, signing off.